Okay, thank you. We're back in. Yes, they're excited over there over the almond joy, so we got to calm them down. But thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that we are going to start conducting our interviews for our trustees for the Roanoke City School Board. And I see we already have Mr. Cherry. Mr. Cherry, if you would come forward. First of all, Ms. Cherry, I just want to say thank you for your service to the Roanoke City School Board. And really, we want to thank you for your interest in serving again. We have 7 questions, and each of us will ask a question, kind of like we did before. And we are hoping that these interviews will take about 20 minutes each. And that's how they're scheduled. So just keep that in mind during your responses. I know you know a lot now, you've been on, but we're hoping to keep them within 20 minutes. Certainly, if there's something you want to say, you can say it. And I think you know everybody here, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. What are the different roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent?
Sure. Well, again, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Roanoke City Council. It's a privilege and honor to be here. Can you all hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it does sound a little low, doesn't it?
It does, and this is a preacher's Sabbath, so my voice.
That's what she went to check.
You can hear me?
It is on.
I can speak up.
Okay.
So that's a good question. I think 2 words come to mind when it comes to school board and the superintendent. That is excellence and synergy. So school board's job is to promote excellence and synergy within the district. As leaders within the community, we are to manage the financials of the district. We are to promote public education and advocate for it. We're supposed to be managing and putting in place policies for the district, and we are to hire the superintendent, whose job is to essentially implement everything that we put in place as school board trustees. So the superintendent works in conjunction with us, and the superintendent really is supposed to develop a vision for our school district, and I think that is the best way and the quickest answer in what superintendent and school board trustees are to do.
Okay, thank you so much. Next question.
All right, Mr. Cherry. Why do you want to serve on the school board?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to kind of speak from my heart and not be too, polished. I love kids. So everything I'm starting to understand at 32, since I was about 18, everything that I do, children are always attached. Aside from this, I'm a pastor, and I've been pastoring at my church I've been there for about 2 years, and we've grown pretty fast, and a great majority of our growth is children and youth and young adults. So I do know that's a passion, that's a call, and also I don't do politics. I just love people. And one thing I love to talk about is I always promised myself and I promised the good Lord that if I ever were to make something of myself, I'll tell my story. So the reason why I want to be a school board trustee in this city is because this city has given me a chance. I'm a product of a chance. So the same chance I was afforded in this city to make something of myself, I want to give the same opportunity to a child, because essentially Roanoke City has a bright future. We're a hidden gem, but our future's in jeopardy if we don't invest in our children. So that is a big reason why I want to be a part of that. And I also thank you all for giving me the opportunity and giving me such trust. I think I started on this journey when I was 28 or 29. You gave a kid a chance to be in charge of kids. So I appreciate that. But that's one of the biggest reasons why I want to be a trustee.
Thank you.
It's my turn.
Oh.
What specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
So one of the things I would do, and something that we've been pushing, is transparency, giving that parent their voice. And one thing I'm very intentional about in every public meeting And even in the closed sessions, I want to encourage and push the opportunity for parents to extend their voice, because at the end of the day, we're public servants. So we're serving the community. We're not trying to hide anything, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're serving our students, but that comes with an all-in approach. So we need the parents in as well. So we've been doing the best we can. I think we've increased a lot of communication tactics via the mass text messaging, making sure we are extremely vibrant and engaged in social media. I think we've done a good job on that. And also having the parents be able to express themselves in the public meeting. So that's really been a big thing of myself personally, really pushing parents, because I'm a parent. I have 2 kids in the public school system here. So, and I don't want to put my child's business, but we have certain issues with my child as well. And I take my school board hat off and put my parent hat on. So that same voice that I exert as a parent, I want other parents to be able to experience that as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
My turn now. I've got a 2-part question.
Oh, yikes.
What experience do you have in financial decision-making and oversight? And then part 2 is, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
So aside from being on the board, I will say I have a great deal of experience with managing and having a lot of oversight over financials and business operations. Professionally, I'm a clinical and medical operations manager for Optum Health. That's a subsidiary of United Healthcare. So I manage a staff of 102 medical coders every single day. And before that, I had the unique opportunity of opening a drug addiction treatment center right here in the city, Brightview Health. We started that from scratch. We started with essentially just myself and a patient service representative, and when I left with the promotion on the table, we left with a staff of 20, and we really were growing a patient census. We grew from, I think, about 15. We left with 150 patients. So with that job, was in charge of the budget, was in charge of managing finances. My current role as a pastor, we've increased our budget. Even in past tense, being a chief administrative officer in North Carolina, we improved a budget of $150,000, and then when I moved back, we were at $750,000. And I think all of that entails with a community all-in approach. Again, going to the fact that we are public servants, so we have to be able to provide a level of transparency to the community. Taxpayers want to see where their money is going. So if we're going to be public servants, we have to be willing and open and honest to let our citizens know where their dollars are going. I think Roanoke City Schools and Roanoke City as a whole, we've done a good job of that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
All right, Michael, what do you see as a major challenge in Roanoke City Public Schools? And if you are appointed as a member of the school board, what would you do to address this challenge?
I would say 2. One is an issue that's in front of us right now with our bus situation. That is a major challenge that we'll be faced with making a major decision here in the next few weeks. What that entails is there'll be time changes for certain schools, and we know with time changes that affects parents and their work-life balance. So just being open and honest, when we were brought with that to the table, personally I didn't like what the schedule said. So instead of voting that day, I made the recommendation that we hold off and talk about it a little more. So that's a challenge that I know we're going to have to face in the next couple weeks. And then also overall, increasing student voice within our school system. That's something personally that I've taken on. Before coming on the board, we didn't have much of a student voice, and that was a problem for me because that was the biggest reason why I wanted to be a school board member, to be able to hear from the students. So what we implemented was a school board student representative. I'm in charge of that process, and it's a liberating process, being able to, every year that I've been on the board, every year I go to Fleming, and I go to PH and I speak to rising juniors about what being a school board trustee is all about. And, it's really good because the school and the students, they really have this perspective of us that sit in these seats, we're uppity, or we've always had a silver spoon in our mouth. And what I always tell them, the best part of that, even though it's a growing, evolving challenge, I give them my story. I failed 10th grade twice, graduated high school with a 1.9. And I don't believe you, so I even put my high school transcript on my PowerPoint presentation where it had 5 Fs on it. So students are able to ask me that question. They really get to connect. And I think that is something, it's a new process. We're in our 3rd year, but I think that's a growing and evolving process. And if given the opportunity, I think I want to continue to evolve that process.
All right, thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
What specific ideas do you have for improving student achievement and graduation rates within our schools?
I think we're already on the right path with our equity and diversity, or our equity and action plan. There's a saying that goes, we all need to, especially in the civil rights movement, we heard we all need to pick ourselves up by our own bootstraps. I think we're in the business, me personally, I'm in the business of making sure every student has boots to begin with. So what we've done, of course you all were a part of it, it was a momentous occasion. I think a great stride was opening the Charles W. Day Tech Center. That was a big deal, giving all students the access to not just graduate high school, but graduate with a resume. And that was a big deal, not just from a school board trustee perspective, but actually being hands-on, being on the CTE committee, making sure we have the barbering programs, making sure we have the HVAC programs, making sure that our students don't just leave with a diploma, because at the end of the day, I've been that student where I graduated with a 1.9 and I left and I said, now what? So I think that's a big deal for me, is making sure our students, especially in Roanoke City, we're an urban school district, I want to make sure that our students, they leave with a resume, go to school, and be able to come back to bring those gifts and talents to our city.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I guess I get to wrap it up with you.
Okay.
The work that you do on the school board is often very challenging.
Yeah.
Can you describe for us a situation when you experience conflict and how you work to resolve or transform it?
Yeah, it's one thing to build relationships, it's another thing to strengthen the relationship. So one thing I always keep in mind, especially as a school board trustee, when we deal with each other, whether it's in an agreement or disagreement, we always keep 3 things: honor, transparency, and respect. So in these tense moments, especially what I love the most is we have 2 retreats. One specifically is an in-house retreat, and that's a retreat where we really get to just deal with each other, really get to take the titles off and deal with the person, because at the end of the day, we all have titles, but we want to know the person with the title. And, personally speaking, I really want to serve a city where we have integral leadership. So we're able to have those candid conversations. We're able to be vulnerable in those moments. And it's through the vulnerability of the retreats that respect and trust is really built. And I think we build and honor each other's strengths. So that's one thing I really applaud our board. We are really good, especially our chair and vice chair. They're really intentional about making sure we honor each other's strengths, because where one may be weak, the other one may be strong, and you don't want a board that is strong in the same thing, because that'll make for a weak board. But when you have one that's strong here and another that's strong here, it really makes for a strong, diverse board. So there's been times, especially in those retreats, we have really tense, candid, I like to say, conversations.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mike. So that concludes the interview process, but on May 20th, there will be a public hearing, and you can have some of your friends, colleagues, and whomever that you would like to come speak on your behalf, hopefully in favor of appointing you again as a trustee. And that's going to be at, is it 7 o'clock? What time is it? 7? Is that right, Madam Clerk? 7 o'clock. So May 20th at 7 o'clock. And so if you would like to have someone come and speak on your behalf at that time, that would be fine. And we will make our decision on June 3rd.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again for 3 years It's been a great opportunity, been a great journey. It's definitely stretched my capacity. I've had to grow up, but it's been great, and I thank you all for the 3 years I have had. So.
Do you have any questions, or you just?
No, just, excited to be here, honored to be here, and thank you all for all you do.
Thank you.
Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Trish, you ready for the next one? Yes. You ready? Yes. Yes, and we will give everyone else an opportunity to just give an opening statement, because we know Mike, and
Right.
and so Stephanie is saying that would be a good idea, so that's fine. So it is 7 o'clock. I don't know why I got stuck on that. Yeah. May 20th. It is May 20th. It's May 20th. One another time. Yeah. It's at the 7 o'clock. Yeah, but yeah, you was right when you were saying it's May. Is it your birthday? No. Oh, that's right, that's right. That's right. And you say it's your child, your son? It's my son's birthday. Is it? Oh, okay. He said he made this do Memorial. Yeah, dude had his on March 20th. He celebrated his years. Married. Yeah, birthday. And how's your other son? Okay. You just went ahead and just put the right on. Just push him out. Just push him. Yeah, yeah. I was I did 4 years of
It was a very special day.
Let him get out of my way. I just, yeah. Hi, Karen.
Hi, hello, good afternoon.
Welcome, welcome. I
Thank
am
you.
Tricia, and I am the personnel chair, and I just want you to know that we are really appreciative that you have taken the initiative to apply to become one of our Roanoke City School Board Trustees, so we thank you for that. And we have 7 questions that we're going to ask. We'll take turns, and we don't know you like we knew Mr. Cherry, so we'll give you an opportunity to just give us a brief statement and try to introduce yourself as briefly as you can.
Sure.
We're going to try our best to keep these interviews within 20 minutes, but we
Got
are
it.
certainly going to give you the amount of time that you need.
Sure,
So,
thank you. Well,
floor
thank
is
you all
yours.
for allowing me to be here. I'm excited to at least even have the interview sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm not nervous about you guys as individuals, the formality is nerve-wracking. But I am Carrie Garnett. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of Junior Achievement of Southwest Virginia. We focus on workforce development, financial education for K through 12 in all of Southwest Virginia. Besides that, I'm also a Roanoke City RCPS parent, too. I've lived in Roanoke my whole life. I've dedicated my professional career to giving back to this community and making it a better place, whether it's with, the kids that we serve in JA, whether it was with the Roanoke Skate Park Initiative, getting kids, excited about, rallying together to build something that was for them. But I've also had different careers in counseling and teaching, usually non-traditional adult education. So my focus right now is really children and just being preventative. A lot of my experience professionally has been with adults who needed better education growing up, and no matter what my position has been, that is the overarching theme has been education and the fact that they lacked education. So I've kind of, just dedicated my career to figuring out how to make sure every child in our community ends up on the right path and is able to access their dreams. So thank you all for having me here.
Thank you for that. And I'm actually going to do the first question.
Sure.
And that is, what are the different roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent? Can you tell us that?
Sure. The roles and responsibilities of the school board are to provide governance for the education system in Roanoke City, to set goals, to provide and dictate budget, and to work as in collaboration with administration and the superintendent. Our school board doesn't do the day-to-day admin of the school. However, we do collaborate with them in order to, direct the path of each year and the budget and whatever goals are set.
Thank you. Next.
All right, the second question is, why do you want to serve on the school board?
I went into it a little bit.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I already answered that one. No, I again am from Roanoke. I was born and raised here. I was what was considered an at-risk teenager, at-risk youth, living in poverty, and teenage mom, all, you name it. And I felt like I did not have a voice at that time. And I see daily, I'm in all of the schools, I'm in RCBS all the time, and I talk to children, I talk to teenagers often, and a lot of them don't feel like they have a voice, they don't feel like someone's listening to what they want, I just think our city is the best place you could live, and for me, running a nonprofit and, helping kids exercise their voices outside of school isn't enough. I think that I personally can do more to make sure that there's equitable access to education, that, the funding choices that are made with children in mind, our students in particular, as well as our educators. So I have a passion that stems from day one in my life to make sure everything is fair and equitable. However, I just feel really passionate about this community, and I just know that I would handle the role with the dedication and the seriousness that's needed.
Thank you.
Okay. Following up on what the council member said, what specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
That's a wonderful question, and one I deal with on a daily basis. One thing I think people assume that education and school system exists in this silo, that it's just this standing thing over here, and all of those people take care of it. When I'm mad, I can yell at them or whatever. But I think something that a lot of parents especially don't see is that schools are, it takes a village. People hear that all the time, but it takes a village. And I think really encouraging parents to volunteer in the schools as much as possible is actually one way for them to not only see the challenges that teachers face, but just to get to know the other students more. For students, when they see other parents in the classroom and other adults that care enough to come into the classroom, it changes their perspective a little bit, that it's not just the teachers telling them what to do, that this whole village is here to take care of us, and we have expectations, and responsibilities as students outside of just the teacher-student transactional. There are parents and there are other people in the community that we also have to behave for and listen to, and that show us respect and love too. So I think volunteering, just really encouraging. I don't know if it's a whole campaign on that. I think that would be great. However, I think that would be really eye-opening, and I think encourage other ways of getting involved in the school systems as well.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I have the next question. It's a
Sure.
two-part question.
Okay.
What experience do you have in financial decision-making and oversight? And then part two is, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
Okay. So for the first one, I am a CEO of a nonprofit. It's a $500,000 nonprofit budget, which I know is significantly less than the school budget. However, the same principles apply with budgeting and, financial oversight. I am held accountable to a board of directors, of course. However, they entrust me with day-to-day decision-making and budgeting, financial oversight of our entire organization. So in my daily life, I'm always budgeting and managing, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So will you please, Mr. Pretty, just repeat the second question one more time?
So the second question is, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
And I know that everyone in the school board already does this, but I really think listening to teachers and educators, administrators, I know that is, there are gray areas in everything, and making a budget can be difficult. You're never going to please everyone. Not every single person is going to have what they want necessarily, but I do think respecting the educators themselves and listening to what their needs are as educators is of utmost importance, but also making sure that every decision is made with the children in mind in terms of providing equitable access, addressing mental health issues, anything, that may be a barrier to children's learning. I think it's really important that we make sure that every decision is made to ensure that, that access and that equitable attainment is there. And I think the only way to do that is really listening to educators and teachers. I don't think you can make decisions without placing that of, the utmost care.
Thank you.
Ms. Garnett, what do you see as a major challenge in Roanoke City Public Schools? And if you are appointed as a school board member, what would you do to address that challenge?
There's so many challenges. Just trying to... I would say right now, I think one of the biggest challenges, from an RCPS parent's perspective, which I am, is safety. I think every parent has a concern about safety. I do think RCPS handles safety of children very well, and I think that has improved, actually, over the past few years. But I think really listening to parent concerns about safety is important. So, as a board, obviously, you work for the people, but I think just improving measures to keep parents in the loop of what's happening, just making decisions, obviously school attendance is important, but the children's lives are more important than, missing a couple of hours of school. So I would say, just really focusing on whatever measures possible to make sure children are safe, but also, they aren't thinking about safety every day. So I think, to me, that would be the biggest challenge. And so in order to address that, just listening to parental concerns and, from our safety officials, police department and things like that, just making sure, you're always talking to them and making sure that you're doing everything possible, including funding, to make sure that children are safe.
As a school board member, just name one thing that you would do to deal with safety.
That I would do, I couldn't hear the last part.
Safety, you mentioned safety.
Yes.
What one thing would you do if you had to do one thing? What would it
If I
be?
had to do one thing, I would, I can think of a few things, actually, but one thing that I would do, would be a lot more emphasis on, I know there's a lot of, there's funding and there's grants out there for, the Gun Prevention Alliance and things like that, And I know that's not the responsibility of the school board necessarily, but I think making sure that some funding is allocated, that enough funding is allocated for prevention awareness in every community, not just certain ones. I think every community, just so maybe some kind of campaign or working together more with parents on safety and just information. I think a lot of families don't have the information they need to make sure their children are being safe, and that includes, on the phones and things like that. So I think involving the parents more and allocating funding to some kind of, safety campaign. I think that police officers and school admin, they are already doing the most that they can. In terms of safety, I think it's a cultural issue, and I think there just needs to be more information and more conversations with children.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
What specific ideas do you have for improving student achievement and graduation rates within our schools?
Great question. So I think an increase in experiential learning is really important for our children right now, meaning experiences outside of the classroom, which I know may sound interesting. However, I think the children that, went through COVID, they are lacking in a lot of the social skills, a lot of the social awareness in terms of just interacting with people, interacting with their community and the world around them. I think they are isolated right now in many, many ways. And I think advocating for an increase in workforce development, which I know the city has done with the Charles Day Center. It's an amazing facility. I think increasing, vocational, access and opportunities, but also just creating different opportunities with people in the community, increasing access for children to feel like they are a part of this community, whether it's a field trip or, whatever it may be. Right now, as a parent, I can say, and as someone that goes into the schools for my job all the time, the kids are antsy. They're antsy, they're sitting, they're staring at screens, and the teachers have a lot that they need to get done. However, I think we're missing the mark on making sure that our children are well-rounded and fully formed, and that is being a part of your community. You can't become a well-rounded citizen right after high school if you've never stepped foot in your community and you don't know who's out here or, So for me, I think we can check all the boxes and make sure children are getting A's and all of that, but I don't think that children are fully prepared to enter society after school at this point, and I think a lot of effort needs to be placed on experiential learning at every grade level.
Thank you.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Last question. Please describe for us a situation when you experienced conflict and how you worked to resolve or transform it.
I have so many instances. I used to work for the Department of Social Services, and you've never seen an angry person until you have to cut off someone's food stamps. I'm trying to think of which one would be a great example. I'll say with the Roanoke Skate Park Initiative, I worked with teens and children and young adults in our community for 8 years, helping them organize and advocate for a project that they felt strongly about. And there was a lot of conflict, a lot of pushback, a lot of questioning, and trying to round up a bunch of kids who have a lot of feelings and are very reactive, trying to round them up and make sure they're calm and can express themselves professionally and get their point across. That was a really difficult 8 years of my life trying to do that, and I didn't have any experience coming into city council and talking to people, and the pushback that we received on that from many different people in the community was difficult, but for me, it was knowing that in the end, the kids that I was helping advocate for would have something that they felt proud of. So when you have that clear goal in mind and you have that clear passion and, your heart is in it because you care about children and you care about your community, I think it's easy to not be reactive. I think it's easy to sit and think calmly, and how I dealt with the pushback and the negativity was just to remain calm and clear in my vision and what I wanted, and trying to back it with as much reason as possible. So with any conflict that I've ever received, no matter what my profession was at the time, just trying to step back and handle things calmly and staying true to your vision, I think, is the best way to handle that. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think overcoming people who may not agree with what you're saying or doing, I think listening, being respectful to their view, and staying true to what you believe is right is always the best way to handle it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Ms. Garnett, on May 20th, there will be an opportunity. We have a part of the agenda called Hearing of Citizens, and if you want, you don't have to, it's not a requirement, but if you would like, you can ask, friends, colleagues, neighbors, anyone that you would want to come and speak on your behalf.
Okay.
That would be the time to do it, and that's May 20th at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And the decisions will be announced June 3rd.
Okay.
So you'll be notified by June 3rd. And again, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
interest in being a trustee for Roanoke City Public Schools. And that concludes your interview.
All right. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
We lost one, but he should be back in a second. He should be right back.
It doesn't help as much as you think it would. There's he's flying in my head. But
The next person not here.
David Howell.
I think he's here. I thought I saw him out there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Howell.
Looks like who's speaking. Good afternoon. Thank you.
We lost a member who just stepped out for a second, so we're going to wait. We don't want him
Okay, that's fine.
to miss your intro, so
understand.
just
This is the end of a long day, and you guys have been sitting for a long time.
seems like a short one for us.
I was going to say, it's actually better today than it has been
All
other
right.
days, so, yes. And we introduce to you Mr. Volleson. So, first of all, I just want to say, I'm Trish, and I'm Chair of the Personnel Committee, and I just want to say thank you for your interest in becoming a trustee for the Roanoke City School Board. We certainly appreciate that. And if you would like to take just a couple of minutes just to tell us a little bit about yourself. After that, we are going to go straight into the interviews. We have 7. Each of us will ask a question, and you will get a chance to respond. So just, and I will say to you, as I've said to everyone else, we have scheduled these 20 minutes apart, so just keep that in mind.
Right.
Thank
Try
you.
to stay concise. Well, thank you very much, Councilwoman White Boyd and Mayor Lee and Vice Mayor Cobb and the rest of council members. I appreciate you all taking time to talk to me about the position. As I indicated in my application, I'm recently retired from Ferrum College. I realized, my wife said I flunked retirement 101 because I immediately went back and taught as an adjunct professor, but I'm finished now, and I realized you retire from something, but you also retire to something. And something that I'm still passionate about, and probably reflecting the fact I went back to teach, is education. I'm from a family of educators. My dad was, my mom was a teacher as well before she stepped aside from working outside the home to work full-time raising a family. But my dad was a elementary school principal, and then eventually became a central office administrator, director of reading. Both of the parents were first-generation college students. My sister, special ed teacher, elementary school principal, worked her way up to central office, eventually became associate superintendent for the public school system in Kansas as well. My brother and I both ended up in higher education as professors and administrators, but we were sort of inculcated at a very early age the value of education, how it can transform not just individual lives, but also communities. So this is something that is a part of me. Hearing stories about school board meetings and members from my dad and from my sister, both the good, the bad, and the ugly, as you know, depending upon the situation. I understand the importance of this position for communities, for faculty and staff, and particularly for students. The other thing I would say in terms of my personal story is I certainly have a disciplinary interest and expertise. This was in religion. I was a religion professor. But early on, partly because of my first job, when I went back to my alma mater and was hired to be director of a brand new program they wanted to start, freshman year experience, which is now pretty common in college. This was in the late 80s. It was not as common then. And the importance of students in that making that transition from high school to college. And it involved just not the academic side of it, but also the social and interpersonal and developmental side of it. And I'd worked at my alma mater as a resident director for a while. The program was actually housed in student affairs, and so the VP for student affairs knew me well. He called me from Oxford and described the position, said, I think you'd be good because you can relate with students in student affairs, but you also, I think, would have a little bit of academic credibility with the faculty with a PhD from the University of Oxford. So are you interested in the job, or you're just desperate? And I said, yes. So I went back there and spent 4 years in various positions there developing this program. But it got me really interested in teaching and learning ways much more deeply perhaps than I might not have been had I just gone the traditional route of a faculty member doing research and publishing books. So throughout my career in higher ed, lots of different ways I was involved in teaching and learning, developing new programs, and I think I have something as a result of that to contribute to being a school board member. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to respond to your questions and giving you a chance to know me a little bit better.
Thank you. And I will actually start with the first question.
Okay.
What are the different roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent?
Well, when you think about the school board, I mean, they have a couple of main things they're responsible for. One is to hire the superintendent, right? And the other thing is to work with the superintendent and the other staff to help set policies that will guide the school and provide stability, which I think is really important for the school system to flourish. And then, of course, there's the budgetary aspect, you know, of helping develop and set a budget, and of course that involves interacting with stakeholders, you all in the city, grants, agencies that may give grants, and foundations, also the state, even the federal government. So I think the school board may have some roles and different ways of interacting with those. But that's what I see the main thing the school board does, and certainly we don't want to micromanage the superintendent or central office or those things. That's not our job.
Okay, thank you.
And the second question, and You may have hit some of this in your personal statement, so
Okay.
don't feel bad if you repeat anything. Why do you want to serve on the Roanoke City School Board?
Well, it's an opportunity for me to give back to the community about something that I care deeply about. Right now, some people said, "Oh, David, you're crazy for in this position," and then they followed up by, "I think you'd be really, really good." And I was gratified by that support, and they're probably both right. Given the culture wars that involve our schools, I just think it's really important right now that we have a strong school board, and Roanoke City certainly has missed and managed to stay out of some of the culture wars you see elsewhere in the state and the nation. But I just think that I have something to contribute and have a even keel sort of personality that could respond well in those potentially tense moments if it comes to that.
Thank you.
Excuse me. What specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question
Yes,
a little bit? I'm sorry.
No problem, let me do this.
uh,
What specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
Well, and what I would say is what is necessary is appropriate parental involvement. I mean, children flourish when their parents are involved. Schools flourish and communities flourish. In terms of specific things, sorry, I won't talk with my hand and not send the remote control flying here. I think that there needs to, obviously, matters of clear communication. You need to listen, promote ways in which they can be involved in ongoing and current structures like parent-teacher associations and things like that. Listening sessions, being available when they call, and at times potentially have tough conversations with parents, and to help them to realize that they're not the only parent that may be interacting with a teacher. There's maybe 25, 30 sets of parents, and you can't individualize everything. Now that's probably getting too deep into the weeds and micromanaging that, but I'm sure and know that parents call school board members or email them and contact them. So I think that's a part of that, and I think the other thing that you do is promote and be publicly visible as far as when there are events, show up. That's a main part of that. If education is participatory, it's participatory for parents and for, in this case, a school board trustee to be there, to be available, to know what's going on, and to talk. So I think that's important. And now that I'm retired, I certainly have more time to devote to this sort of thing, those sorts of activities than I did before.
Thank you.
Have the next question.
Yeah.
It's a two-part question.
Okay.
And you can just give a brief answer for the first part, and I'm hoping you'll elaborate more on the second part. The first part is, what experience do you have in financial decision-making and oversight?
Okay, what do I have financial experience in financial situations in the second part?
For financial decision-making and oversight. That's the first question.
Right, okay.
If you just answer briefly on that in the
Okay.
last.
Well, certainly, when I was an administrator running programs in student life as honors program director, and then later as dean, we had budgets, and people made requests, and we evaluated the requests and tried to allocate the money in responsible ways and not to go over. And if there were So in terms of managing budgets, I had those sorts of experiences.
Okay.
The other thing I would say, as a faculty member, in a slightly different way, I was interested, I was always curious, wanted to learn new opportunities. So when grant opportunities, foundations and things would be offered, I would wrote applications and made grant proposals and was successful a lot of times, which gave me opportunities, or others in the school opportunities to do things. So there was that side of sort of getting funds that was a part of that too.
And then the second part of the question is, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
Well, I know what I read in the paper and I see in the local news about the ongoing discussion about the question about the 40% agreement that was worked out a number of years ago. Certainly, one of the major things that the council funds is public education, and it's important that they have that. So I think there needs to be communication between the two, working together. I think there's value in stability, and it allows people to plan, and they're not spending lots of energy wondering, is the money going to be there or not? So at this point, I don't know enough to know details about, where the difficulties, are between the two organizations and what's not been working or how you want to do things differently. But I do think to the extent that both groups can come to agreement and have framework to make decisions, then it's more equitable, and it allows the school board to plan. Because one of the frustrating things has to be for school board trustees is that we're responsible for funding programs and for setting policies, but we don't control the purse strings, and that's true everywhere. And so school board trustees need to work with the people that control the purse strings. And the other thing, it's complicated in recent years because of all the question marks about the state budget. What's the budget going to be? What's the funding levels? So that's another level of uncertainty for you all and for the school board in planning. But to the degree that you can reach some framework that allows for stability, and shared responsibility, I think, is helpful to the school board trustees.
Thank you.
Ms. Howard, your education background, I'm right here.
Okay.
Your educational background again, you were a teacher, professor?
Yes. I went to seminary after college. I went to seminary and did an MDiv and a THM, but my intention always, I understood my calling before I graduated from college was higher ed. I enjoyed the academic side of it, and so it was a professor with administrative work on the side. So even when I was administrator at my first job, I still taught 1 or 2 classes a semester. When I was a dean of the School of Arts and Humanities at Ferrum, I still taught a class or 2, and I frankly always wanted to have my foot in the classroom because I enjoyed the interaction with students.
Okay. My question is, what do you see as a major challenge in Roanoke City Public Schools? And if you were appointed as a member of the school board, what would you do to address this challenge?
The main challenge, I also want to say, which year? I mean, it seems like, again, I know the chronic absenteeism seems to be the issue this year. Violence, another year. Parental rights, and think in terms of dictating. Just general, this education as a cultural edge issue. What I will say is I'm a firm believer that these different issues that pop up, they really need to be looked at, and if we can frame them in some sort of way that sees them as systems, because they're interrelated. If we just focus on one, we're going to do whack-a-mole, beat this problem down this year, next year something else is going to come down. That problem that we thought we solved may come back. So I see generally, so what's the overarching theme that I see? I think it goes back to parental and community involvement and appreciation in the school system. I think there's been a denigration of education in some quarters. People want it, they see it as a private commodity, an individual commodity that they want for their students, but they don't necessarily want to share it else much wider and support it. And this is public education is public. It's for all people. It needs to be supported. My son graduated in 2006 from Patrick Henry and the Roanoke Valley Governor's School. I had a wonderful education in Roanoke, in middle school and high school. So I don't have the personal involvement anymore, but the community needs education. So I think chronic absenteeism, parents don't value education, or they have difficulty because they're doing multiple jobs trying to keep food on the table, and the poverty does that, or the parental involvement. It's the other side. I talked about the parental rights, and so I can dictate what my child reads or doesn't read in school. So if we get this sense that we're in it all together, and there's appropriate parental and community involvement and support for education, then we can address the various elements of the system. So,
Just real quickly, how would you engage the community? What would you do specifically as a board member?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first you need to find ways to get them present. So do you have, the parents show up at parent teachers in some cases. Some cases they don't because they're not interested or they're not able to because of work responsibilities. But are there citywide events, speakers, or things that happen that you get people pulled in and make the personal connection with teachers, with administrators, with the school board? And then on the basis of that, you ask them and try to bring their skills and talents and personalities to support the school system. I mean, it's generally about civic engagement. Schools are part of a larger civic engagement. We want people to vote, and we want people to value education, so they're willing to pay taxes to support education. That some of that is education. I was encouraged. I read somewhere a project is not open yet, but with the new Day Tech Center, I think I was reading about in the future hoping to have some sort of parental academy, so that there could be opportunities to educate and to involve parents and help them so they can support. So as many ways as possible we can get people interconnected and engaged. I think that's important.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. What specific ideas do you have for improving student achievement and graduation rates within our schools?
Well, I mean, Roanoke, from what I've read, has improved. The trajectory is, given COVID and what happened there, but they were kind of on the upward trajectory on some of these goals. I think you without, again, find ways to involve community members. Are there mentors, tutors that you could use those for students that are struggling? Are there ways in which, and I know there are some already, some of the VOTEC programs that allow students to make progress towards graduation? not everyone is going to go to UVA or William and Mary or wherever, but we can help educate them so they can be responsible citizens and find jobs that are fulfilling to them. So provide opportunities for that, and try to get them, excited. I don't have the silver bullet, or I shouldn't talk about silver bullet, should I, in around schools, secret pill or something, because if there was out there, schools would be doing it right now. I mean, it's something that they continue to struggle with. I will say that the safety, the support net that we provide our students is very important. They need to be challenged, but if they challenge them too much without a safety net, then they despair, they give up, they have no hope. If we don't challenge them enough, then they get bored and drop out. And for many students, family provides that safety net and that support. Not everyone has that same support, and so we need to find ways in which we can do that. And I know there are churches and communities of faith that do things, provide food to address food insecurity and things like that. But anyway, to have the more stable a student has in terms of his or her environment, the better chances they have of being successful and flourishing.
Dr. Howell, I get the last question.
All right. Well,
Before I ask it, I want
don't
to say, when I read your application, I was so excited because you talked about your father and your sister who were involved in public schools in Wichita, Kansas and Mays, Kansas.
Right.
And I'm a product of both of those school systems.
Oh, really?
Which was very cool to me. So it's fun to hear that.
Yeah, when I was in school, Mays was just a little tiny town on the edge,
it's not
and now
anymore.
Wichita's grown, and it's the suburb and has one of the better school. I mean, a lot of people are now fleeing Wichita and going to Mays on one
That's
side
right.
of town and Andover on the other, as you well know. But sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, my question is one that you've probably never, ever had to deal with, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Please describe a situation when you experienced conflict and how you worked to resolve or transform it.
When I experienced conflict, and what was the last part?
How you worked to resolve or transform it.
Yeah, I would say that too often when there's conflict, we approach it as a zero-sum game. There's going to be winners and losers in this conflict. And so one of the first things I try to do was to see if we can reframe the situation so there can be a win-win and what win would look like for each side. Some of that involves finding ways that you can make connections to the person the conflict is with. And I think oftentimes we think about diversity as people checking boxes and having particular categories. But I think each person, in a sense, is a multicultural self. We're made up of multiple identities. We're diverse. We look in the mirror, and there's diversity there. And so there may be a case where I'm male, someone's female, I'm white, someone's black. Some of the boxes are checked. But there can be lots of ways in which we share identities in terms of people of faith, political orientation, economic status. So you look for ways in which you can have this sort of shared experience and build those bridges. And some of that involves listening, asking questions, trying to understand that perspective of the other person, and see if you can reach a resolution which is satisfactory to both. And sometimes I will say, it's not immediate that it's satisfactory. Only, in retrospect, do people look back and say, yeah, that was good, that was sweet. So, but you don't necessarily have a kumbaya moment, in that particular moment. So,
Thank you.
I don't know if you want specifics or if this sort of generalities are
great.
enough. I can think of lots of battles in curriculum committee at a higher education where, people wanted something and they had difficulty with it, but.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Howell, we thank you so much
Oh, thank you.
for participating, and we are going to have on May 20th at 7 o'clock, we have a section on our agenda called citizens, hearing of citizens, and at that time, you can invite friends, colleagues, or anyone that you would like to speak on your behalf to come, and they will have
All
a
right.
few minutes to speak on your behalf, and that's May 20th, and we will render our decision on June 3rd.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. I apologize. I found the clock now at the very end. I realized,
No, I think we had some other extra questions.
I went over, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're doing New York. He was only 4. And you talk about the generous speech.
If you let Jim.
It's like it was just a drill. I said, it's just
If you'll take one, pass it down. I give one to John.
He was 4. I'm from New York. And it's like, okay. Hi, Ms. Quintana. We had someone step out just for a second, so I'm sorry to put you on pause.
No, that's
You
fine.
just relax, though. Just relax. Just relax. How many do we have? 1 or just 1? Is it still raining out?
Yes, it was.
Pouring?
it's-
Mr. Volleson said he walked by that window and it was pouring.
It's pouring, storming, yes, very bad. Everybody that has come, we have all our umbrellas outside, a little group of umbrellas.
I'm sorry, I was wondering if it's still pouring like that.
Yes, definitely is.
It was very nice when we got here. I was kind of surprised when he came back, it's pouring out there.
It really is.
It was nice, yeah. Well, my car needed a good washing, so that was. Yeah, because I've been going home. I came back, it was covered, it was embarrassing, my car was really embarrassing.
Sometimes it just runs enough to make it look like putty. What y'all slide?
White or black, and I had white and black. Okay, I think we're all back. So first, I'm Personnel Chair, Trish White Boyd, and I just want to say thank you so much for applying and your interest in becoming one of our Roanoke City School Board trustees. I know we've heard from you once, but we've got some new members. If you could just take a brief moment to just kind of reintroduce yourself. And we each have one question. There's 7 total. And we're thinking the interviews will last about 20 minutes each, so just keep that in mind. But we would like for you to reintroduce yourself.
Well, hi, everybody, again. My name is Liz Quintana. I am the Youth Development Supervisor for here, the city of Roanoke. I've been there for almost 2 years. Prior to that, I worked with Virginia Tech and Feeding America. And when I lived in New York, I worked for Child Protective Services for like 17 and a half years. So my passion has always been kids. I have one graduate from Roanoke City Schools and a freshman now at the schools.
Thank you. So I am actually going to start with the first question, and it's what are the different roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent?
Well, the school board helps determine the budget and the education programming that is being offered that is up to standards. The superintendent does all the, I guess, day-to-day administrative in the schools.
Okay. All right, thank
The
you.
next question is, why do you want to serve on the school board?
The answer is still the same like last year. There needs to be representation of the Hispanic community. It is the largest growing immigrant community in the city. So I am very passionate about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
First is providing them the knowledge of the power that they have. And with that knowledge, we also have to give them tools for them to understand that they have this responsibility, not only to themselves, but to the community. And what a big impact it is if they put more emphasis in the kids' schools or the kids' education. And just basically make them understand that investing in your child today is what's going to make it a better society in the future.
Thank
The
you.
next question, it's like 2 questions, so I'll ask the first one separately.
Okay.
What experience do you have in financial decision-making and oversight?
Well, as of right now, as you all know, the city, we are working with the budget. I work with my budget for my program on a yearly basis to make sure we are meeting our requirements, not only with supplies and provisions for the program, but salaries and so forth.
The second part of the question is, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
Just be transparent. Just acknowledge that you're hearing the parents, but also be transparent. And as we all know, we cannot please everybody in the budget. There's always somebody that is not going to be pleased, or is something that is not going to be able to happen. And just tell them, well, right now, at this moment, this year is not a priority, but maybe 2 years down the line, or, how about if we start looking at this, or try to create another way for funds. Just be completely transparency. That will take you guys a long way.
Thank you.
Relins, what do you see as a major challenge in Roanoke City Public Schools? And if you're appointed as a school board member, what would you do to address that challenge?
Immediately, I can just think of two. One is obviously the transportation that has been spotty at best. And the second one, I would say, yes, communication to the Hispanic community. With the transportation, hopefully the new talks of voting on new contract, that would help. But we also need to take in consideration the times, because it was mentioned about the times, and I personally believe that time changes should not affect the little kids. Older kids, parents feel more comfortable letting them walk to the corner. And now communication is just, we get daily texts for buses not working, but none of those texts are in Spanish, or they don't say a solution. Any communication is always, oh, go on our website. I think we have to do better than just going on our website. I think it would be okay for every once in a while important things to send a letter or just send an announcement. And I would like to work and broaden that.
Say that again, I didn't hear that.
I said that I would like to work on that and broaden that and be able to take that message and communicate to the community and the parents.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
What specific ideas do you have for improving student achievement and graduation rates within our schools?
You know what? Just showing the students that we listen, that we care, and that we believe in them. Being supportive, having conversations, and again, I go back to being transparent. We listen to them. We'll take what they say, and we can tell them, okay, this is good, this is not so good, this is possible, this is not possible. We also have a responsibility to prepare our graduating students to the world. So we need to be mindful of that, and just listen, be supportive, be there, be present, understand what is going on, understand that the pressures they're going within socially are completely different than when we were going to school.
Thank you.
Last question. Liz, can you please describe a situation when you experienced conflict, and then how you worked to resolve or transform that conflict?
There's always conflict on everything. It's just a disagreement of point of views. I try to listen. I try to listen to the other person and understand where they're coming from. And I try to then explain my point and explain how I think. I am a person that sometimes my mind goes ahead, and I do not understand that other people don't think how I think, because I've already, perfect example, in the morning, you get there, pick up the phone, and listen to your voicemails, you know? I don't think to tell other people, hey, maybe you should go and get the phone and listen to your voicemails. In my mind, that is just obvious. So, yeah, I think we need to just be there and be more conscious and just be honest again. Just be transparent with the person that you're having the conflict and try to understand their point of views. And also be willing to know that it's not a right or wrong answer. Everybody has their own beliefs. And it's okay to disagree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Quintana, thank you again for your interest in being a member of Roanoke City School Board. And on May 20th would be the hearings, and you're familiar with that, and if you want someone to come to speak on your behalf, that would be the time to do it. It's May 20th at 7 p.m. here in council chambers, and we will make our decision on June 3rd.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's only eaten 4, but let's just go ahead and put him in a coma.
Keep it quiet over here.
That's all right, thank you.
Well, Ms. Tree, I heard it's pouring out there. Sorry.
It's not too bad.
I am, are we ready?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm Chair of the Personnel Committee, and on behalf of the council, I just want to say thank you for your interest in the Roanoke City School Board as a trustee. And if you would just take just a brief moment to just kind of introduce yourself. I know a lot of us know you, but there are some who don't. These interviews have been lasting roughly 20 minutes.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. After you do your brief statement, we will have 7 questions, and each one of us will ask you a question. So just take a moment to introduce yourselves to.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deidre Trigg. I am born and raised in Roanoke, Virginia, and a product of our Roanoke City schools. I'm class of 93 at Patrick Henry High School. I've been through athletics. I went to college at Virginia State University, where I received my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry and my Master's of Education. I also came back home in 2000, and I became an educator myself, teaching in the school system and coaching various sports such as cheerleading and track. I now am a mother of 2. I have a college graduate from 22 at Radford University, my oldest son Savion, and I have a bright 11-year-old that right now that's at Round Hill Elementary School, and that is Gabriel, who keeps my time occupied outside of everything else.
Thank you. And I actually have the first question. What are the different roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent?
I would say that the school board role is to govern the superintendent and those personnel that run the school system, and making sure that they're running everything accordingly and following those instructions in reference to protecting those teachers that are our educators and that are our first responders with our students and our parents. I would also say that the superintendent role would be responsible for making sure those that are the first responders, as the teachers, are taken well care of as salaries, and making sure the budget is in place, that those are getting well paid, and that the parents are also being heard as well when they have different topics that come up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eggert. The next question is, why do you want to serve on the school board?
That's a full question. I would like to serve on the school board. I feel that my role as not only a parent, as a former educator, just seeing some various things that could be improved. I do believe that I think our teachers have it the roughest. Their hands are tied. When I was in school as a student, I think our teachers had just a little bit more leeway where they weren't caught in the middle and told when to win. More so, we trusted our teachers back then. Our parents trusted our teachers back then. And right now, there is a double-sided version where children are being made, are being able to make some decisions and say, well, the teacher did this versus the teacher did that. And even though I do believe students should have a voice, I also believe that students have parents for a reason because they are still in their learning phase. And I think if we hire teachers to do a job, we should trust them with carrying out those responsibilities. So I do have a voice in reference to standing up for what those teachers actually go through. But I also believe in being a parent as well and seeing some things at the schools where it needs to be for all kids. All kids need to be included, and it doesn't matter what their race or their creed are. So I do believe that I have a vision in reference to being able to be a team player and to assist being on the school board with what we have to govern.
Thank you.
What specific thing would you do to encourage parental involvement in the education of their children?
I believe in being a hands-on parent. I'm very hands-on with my children and always have been. I believe it starts with just reading to your child at night, making sure their reading is up to par. Because if a child can read, a child will be able to comprehend what has to go on. I think behavioral issues in school, parents need to be a little more hands-on with behavior at home because it starts at the household. I also believe when being hands-on with your child is with their education, being in contact with their teacher. Celebrate National Teachers Week when it's time to that. Asking that teacher if they need anything. Do you need me to come to class to just read? Having that presence in the school. When kids start seeing adults walking through the school, they'll do better and they'll want better because they see, oh, Miss Trigg came through the school today, and they were excited because they see me also in the community. I think some of those things are different when you see your neighbor's mom come to the school, and it's exciting. So that next kid may say, oh, Mom, can you come to the school and volunteer this day? The more parental environment that we have in the school system is be better success for their children.
Thank you.
The next question is actually two questions.
Okay.
So the first one's just short. What experience do you have in financial decision-making and oversight?
Well, I believe in your financial oversight kind of starts in your household as well. It's all about budgeting your bills, how much money comes in, where does that money come from, what needs to be importance allotted first. So when you think about the budgeting for a school system, are the personnel paid well? Are the teachers taken care of? Do we have the resources for our students that they need to be successful? So when you think about budget, you need to make sure where that money is coming from and where does it need to be allotted to, and is it spread it out fairly?
And the second part of my question, in light of ongoing funding policy discussions, what do you believe the school board and council can do to promote improved collaboration on budgeting practices?
I think everybody being transparent, working together, what's most important on that budgeting of the finances, what needs to be taken care of first, and again, do the students have what they need to be successful?
Thank you.
Trigg, my question is, what do you see as a major challenge in Roanoke City Public Schools? And if you were appointed as a school board member, what would you do to address this challenge?
I think one of our major challenges, and this is probably myself being able to see from the inside looking in, I think there's an unbalance with the schools. I do think our territories in reference to what kids filter into which schools could be balanced out a little better. I think our challenge is huge behavioral issues. Again, some of that does start at home, but the educators have to be entrusted that they're going to treat the students fairly when they are misbehaving. So I think there is an imbalance there to be addressed in reference that we're having to deal with more behavioral issues. We're having to deal with school bus issues. We're having to deal with the fact that children are not liking school lunches, or they're not as nutritional as they could be, or prepared as they could be. So when you think of all those factors, and you have little kids that are coming to school, they may come to school hungry. They may come to school agitated. Now my bus is late. Now I have an extra excuse to come to school and misbehave because their whole day started off wrong, and then they're not getting the nutrition that they were able to get. So I think is not just one, but at the end of the day, the behavioral issues are the hugest issues, because you have principals and teachers having to handle conduct versus being able to handle what's on those SOLs, what's going to be on that next test, being able to actually teach the class, having that extra time to have fun in the class. So there's a lot of different aspects that are really coming down. I can't just point out one.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Hi. What specific ideas do you have for improving student achievement and graduation rates within our schools?
I think the improvement for the children is, again, finding a balance. We have to find a balance where, for a prime example, Lucy Addison Junior High School that I attended, we came from a middle-class neighborhood that also came from kids who poured out from the projects. So there was a balance. As children, we don't know that, but children who may not see the inner good in that balance, that come across the kids who are at that level, it kind of brings those kids up, where these kids are still reaching, but these kids are now coming up with that middle class scene of, oh, I can do this, or I can go to college, or I can do better because I became friends with someone that's across town, but I really like their attitude. So that would need to be a balance for the children in order to, if you pour all the projects into one school, you're going to have one mind frame, one mindset, and you're going to have nothing but behavior issues. So until we find a balance with the children and we balance these schools out where another child who may be upper class sees what a lower class student comes from. So when I say that, it's because now there's some compassion. Now I go home and have these conversations with my parents. This is what's happening. I want better for my friends, because friends want their friends to do great. Friends don't want friends to see each other down, or I've got to go home and I might not have a meal. So we got to kind of find a balance in order for our children to be successful. Make sure they have the resources. Make sure they know when I come to school, I should have a book bag. I should have my computer. I should have a pencil and a piece of paper. So we're not even at this point, we have kids that just go to school. They got a snack in their hand, but they don't have a pencil. They don't have a piece of paper. It's not that they can't afford it. Right now, their mindset isn't there to say, this is my goal and this is why I'm there.
Thanks. Last question. Tell us about a situation when you experienced conflict and how you worked to resolve or transform it.
That's a good one. So at my job, there can be conflict at any moment, you know. So I work in a training field where I help educate reps to do their job, perform their job every day. And a perfect example is I had a young lady, and it may not have been a conflict directed towards me, but it was a conflict she was having, and it was how she was able to handle it. And she was frustrated. She wanted to literally quit her job. And it was just being overwhelmed, not being educated in what our job is to perform. So I first listened to her, I let her vent, and I asked her, I said, let's calm down, because when you pick up that phone and say thank you for calling, and you give your name, they don't know you. It's not personal. It's a way for you to help and assist. And if they're irate, listen to what they have to say. So when conflict happens, a lot of times conflict is a miscommunication. When you have miscommunication and you're not hearing each other, you're listening, and right now all you may hear is somebody yelling at you. But hear them. Recognize that this isn't your issue, but it is your situation to solve. So give that member a moment to vent and allow them to get it out, and then let them know, assure them, I'll be more than happy to help you with that. If you can give me a moment, let me do some research so I can get your answer. And even if you have to place them on hold, because all our members know, I'm going to have to place you on hold from time to time, right? But guess what that member feels? They're going to resolve my question. And I'm here to wait, because this is why I called today. So she literally, it's been 2 weeks, honestly, that I've been working with her. And she thanks me every day to say, you have made my job easier. I feel comfortable coming to you. She's only been on the job for 6 months. And I told her, I said, I have been here for over 4 years. I still ask questions. I still have someone to turn to. I still reach out to my manager if I need to. Do not think you're supposed to figure it all out by yourself. We have resources. I'm one of your main resources. I'm here to help you. And she's like, I really was on the verge of quitting my job. And I didn't know. She said, I panicked. I panicked, I cried, and I didn't think I could come back. So when I think about conflict, I think about there needs to be communication. Everybody needs to listen to everyone and understand. We may not agree, but we're going to come to a resolution and we're going to meet each other halfway. What's going to be best for that situation? It may not be what I want, it may not be what you want, but what's best for that actual situation in that moment?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Trigg, thank you again for your interest in Roanoke City School Board. On May 20th, I just want to let you know that you will have an opportunity to invite friends, colleagues, whomever to come and speak on your behalf. We have a section on the agenda called Hearing Upon Citizens, and they can come at 7 o'clock on May 20th and speak for you.
Okay.
And on June 3rd, we will render our decision. So thanks again. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's, I think, our last applicant.
Okay. All right. That's it. Everybody looks like they're kind of wore out here today, but if there's no further business to come before the council, this meeting will be declared in recess until Monday, May 13th at 2:00 p.m. here in the chamber for the adoption of the Roanoke recommended fiscal year 24-25 budget and other measures that we deem appropriate. All right, didn't you see it? We're in recess.
Thank you, Mayor.